You're listening to NDWorks, a podcast for the Notre Dame campus community, produced by the Office of Internal Communications. We're the team that brings you NDWorks Weekly, NDWorks Quarterly, The Week at ND, and a passion for sharing clear, concise, and interesting information with faculty and staff of the University of Notre Dame. I'm Natalie Davis Miller, Managing Editor of NDWorks, and I'm glad you're listening. Today, I'm with Brandon Rich, Director of AI Enablement in the Office of Information Technology. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence, or AI, at Notre Dame. Welcome, Brandon.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, starting with how long have you been at the university?
Sure. So I came to Notre Dame back in 2005. So if you're doing the math, that's putting me close to a significant milestone here this summer. My wife came to study in the English program for PhD, her PhD. And so we came up and I joined the OIT back then working in teaching and learning technologies. Over the years, I've done application development, integrations, a lot of cloud. That was a big thing for us. And I was an enterprise architect, worked a lot in the COVID response, done a lot of different things here at Notre Dame. But I'm really excited about this new role and this new team, AI Enablement. It's been very interesting.
Very good. So AI is here at Notre Dame. Can you explain your position and how it works with AI on campus?
Absolutely. Yeah. So this role and this team came out of recommendations from what was called the Generative AI Task Force, sometimes called GATE. And that was a model that we had seen at other universities where they brought in experts from all over campus, people in different constituencies, faculty, staff, students, researchers, trying to get a really broad swath of campus and a lot of different perspectives as to how we're going to engage with this question of AI. The idea is that AI is here and we need a response to it. We need to understand how we're going to take advantage of it, how we're going to think about the risks and responsible use, and how we can get the best use of AI here at Notre Dame.
So what exactly is generative AI?
So that is a broad category. Generative AI is sort of the catch-all term for the current kind of crop of services that are coming up in the world right now. It's text to text. So this would be your chat GPTs of the world, Claude, Gemini, things like that, where you are having a conversation. It's all text-based. There is text to audio. So anything that's doing, say, voice generation, voice cloning, music generation is a big thing right now. All of this is getting really sophisticated. There's text to images. So anytime you can create an image, which you can do with chat GPT, which you can do with Gemini, and even text to video. So we can create clips of realistic looking video just based on a description. All this is sort of under this umbrella of generative AI.
So when you're saying you're texting or talking to it, are you speaking prompts and then it creates it from what you say?
Yes, and this could be literally typing prompts. That's a very common way of interacting with AI, but it can also be voice. There are voice conversation modes that are coming into a lot of these different products, including ChatGPT, where you can have a very natural sounding conversation between yourself and the virtual AI. In the recommendations of the Generative AI Task Force, one of the leading things that we knew we needed to figure out was how do we bring safe and secure AI to Notre Dame? So one thing that we always try to remind people if they don't know is, maybe it's obvious, these AI models, they need data. A lot of people know they've been trained on basically the entire internet. All the high quality data that these companies can get their hands on legally and sometimes quasi-legally. And so in order to continue growing these models, the idea is they need more and more data. So one of the ways that they get that is from us. The chatting that we do with the systems, other sources like that. But you always have to be cognizant that that the data that you put into these AI tools is in a lot of cases subject to them retaining it, selling it, sharing it, just like with any application, social media, it's always a thing to be cognizant of. But with AI, they also want to take your data and use it to train future models. So for us at Notre Dame, it's been very important that we review the terms of service, that we review the security of all the AI tools that people want to use and make sure that we're validating and verifying that they are not using our data in that way, that Notre Dame data is kept secure. So the primary way that we're doing that right now is with our Google tools, Gemini and Notebook LM. So we've been at Google Campus for many years. We've used it for mail, for documents, for sharing files, things like that. They are our trusted partner. And so when they announced that, hey, these AI tools that we released are now under the same umbrella of data privacy protection, it was a very natural choice for us to go, okay, we can release this to campus. Let's, kind of iron out the details, but let's release this first to faculty and staff, which we have done, and very soon to students. That's coming in the next week or so. Part of the reason for that kind of sequence of rollout is we know that the question of releasing AI products to students comes with a lot of potential, concern or questions of what is the communication that goes around that? How do we make sure that we are talking about academic integrity in all the right ways? And so that's part of that messaging that you'll see soon. And we've consulted with faculty members and staff and all the folks involved in that to make sure that is going to be that foundational tool for faculty, staff, and students just to have a secure area to play with AI.
Okay, so Notre Dame has absolutely done their due diligence in making sure this is safe. So what can people do? What precautions should we be taking while using AI?
Sure, yeah. So the main thing is you can play with an AI tool. AI is popping up all over the place. So sometimes you might be thinking, I'm going specifically to use an AI tool. Other times you might be using something, maybe software you've used for a long time, and now it's got a new AI feature. It's not always obvious at this point when you're interacting with an AI model. That's just kind of how it is as AI sort of proliferates in the world of software. So to be safe, the thing that we always tell people is, start with public data. If you're using publicly available data, then you're fine. But otherwise, here at Notre Dame, we define a couple of different levels of data sensitivity. So there's public, internal, sensitive, and highly sensitive. These are, I will say, a little hard for folks to understand, even in IT. We're working on clarifying some of these definitions, but essentially, highly sensitive is defined as things that, will have financial consequences, credit cards, social security numbers, things like that. It's that middle tier of internal and sensitive that we're concerned about. And generally speaking, if we do that due diligence, we look at the terms of service, we do a contract review, sometimes engaging with the vendors, then we can make sure, yes, they are treating the data in the way that we want them to. And we put that up on ai.nd.edu under our approved tools page, so you can see that analysis. Here's what data levels this is approved for.
Okay, so you just mentioned a website. Can you say that one more time?
Yes. So we have ai.nd.edu. That website is maintained by my team, and we try to get as much useful information about AI, what's happening with AI on campus, the approved tools that you can use, as I mentioned, events, our calendar events coming up there. We want to be the one-stop shop for AI. Now, I will say that that's not entirely true right now because there is great work happening all over campus on AI. And so what we want to do is, partner with those folks and link to their great content. A good example of this is work going on over in Arts and Letters. John Behrens is leading really excellent AI workshops. He's got great content on his website over at A&L. ND Learning is a fantastic partner in all this. They have excellent video content for faculty who are trying to figure out how to use AI in their class. And the Lucy Institute has great things going on in AI. So we work with all these folks and more to try to bring together this kind of comprehensive look at AI.
Okay, so the first time I think I met you was at an AI workshop.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit about those types of things that are available to faculty and staff on campus?
Yes. So there are a number of ways in which we're engaging with folks out on the campus. The main thing that I want to make sure that I mention is the Get to Know AI series. So this is a broad audience series of webinars and in-person workshops that are all sort of topic oriented. So in this case, today, maybe this podcast comes out later, but today, Yark Nabrisky, the founding director of the Center for Research Computing, is talking about AI and sustainability. And so this is a very important topic. A lot of people are asking us about how should we think about the environmental impact of AI. So this is going to be a great discussion where we're going to dig into all that. And if you don't happen to make it, it's recorded and it's going to be on our website. Next week, we've got Nitesh Chawla from the Lucy Family Institute talking about AI and its impact on society. So we've got this series that is really, kind of tackling these big questions around AI. We've also got the monthly community of practice that's open to anyone. So if you go to ai.nd.edu/participate, you'll find the opportunity to sign up for that and get that on your calendar. That's where we share AI news that's happening in the world. What are the latest updates here at Notre Dame? And we get people sharing about how they're using AI in their day-to-day world. But you mentioned workshops. So that's another thing that we're doing is my team is trying to connect as much as possible to different departments, units, even disciplines on campus to start up conversations and to start up kind of these communities around how AI is being used. So in this case, this was targeted at campus communicators. We know for one that anybody doing communications work on campus has a really valuable tool in AI. But there are also a lot of questions that come with it. How do we think about attribution? What is the kind of the line between original work that we can publish, when we have to disclose, things like that. So what we tried to do was we worked with Brittany Kaufman and we reached out to this existing group of communicators that cut across unit and divisional lines. How do we pull together people that are doing the same kind of work and get them having a conversation about AI? We feel like bringing people together to just talk, to get their hands on with these tools and to share with each other what they're seeing is a great way for people to learn and see what's possible.
Very good. And because you mentioned Brittany Kaufman, I have to say she's one of my colleagues in internal communications. Mm-hmm. She's our senior copy editor, and this will give me a chance to plug ndworks.nd.edu, where you can find editor's note for you communicators out there. So I know in November there was a conference here on campus, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And so can you talk a little bit about that and who attended and what the significance was of this conference here?
Absolutely. So one of the things that has really been great for us as we kind of go into this AI journey is the community of higher ed. That's one of the great things about being at a university is that unlike in the corporate world, you can reach out to your colleagues at other schools and everybody's really willing to work together and learn from each other. And a lot of universities are in the exact same spot that we're in. How do we stand up AI capabilities on campus? What ought we be thinking about how we use it in the classroom and in administrative spaces and research? So the idea there was, let's convene a group on campus of higher ed, IT, technologists, and strategists that can come together and have this conversation. So to me, this was modeled on some conferences that I found really valuable. They're kind of a constrained size, 120 or so people, one room. You're not dispersing and going on different tracks, but everybody's having the same conversation. So we called it the Notre Dame AI Forum, and we had the first one in 2023, and we had roughly about that number of people. I'd say we had about 45 schools in attendance. We did another one this past year. Same story. We grew. We had more schools represented, 50 or so. I think since we had lightning rounds, we actually had about 30 some odd schools sharing, in terms of presenting. And we've built up a really great community. I've got a Slack channel with, hundreds of people on it. So if anybody in higher ed is working on AI, has a question, it's a great resource to go get a conversation going.
Awesome. One of the things that I think may have been shared at that conference and something I've worked on is with Chuck Hurley, who is our registrar in the Office of the Registrar. And he has a program in a way that he's using AI. Can you speak to that just for a minute or so and let people know what we're doing on campus?
Absolutely. So yes, Chuck Hurley is the university registrar. I'm good friends with all those folks over there. I actually worked in the registrar for 2 years, which was a great experience. And so I'd say a little more than a year ago, they reached out. You may be aware that the process around transfer applications is definitely something we're focusing on improving here at the university. I know that's been influenced by things like the athletics transfer process. And so the registrar is working on all kinds of ways to improve that process and asked me, hey, is there anything that AI could do here? We have this step we think maybe it could be useful in, where anytime someone wants to transfer in a course, they need to submit the syllabus that goes along with that course. And somebody has to read that and understand a few things about it to determine how it's going to transfer into Notre Dame. It's part of the process, but it's very time intensive. And anybody who's ever taken a university class knows that no one syllabus looks like another. It doesn't matter if it's the same university, the same class, different instructors are going to do it different ways, maybe even different, from one semester to the next. but they tend to have some common elements. And so the idea here is that the big thing we need to understand is, what is the mode of instruction in these classes? Is it in person? Is it online with Zoom? Is it asynchronous, where it's more like watching videos? This is a big differentiator in how we think about how that would transfer into Notre Dame. And this turns out to be an excellent use case for a language model. They're really good at understanding documents that you give them, summarizing, drawing out insights. So we were able to write a prompt, and this is something you could just test, with ChatGPT or any similar tool. Drop in an example, ask some questions, see what kind of quality of answers you're getting. So we had good early success. And we're able to scale that up to where now we have a pipeline where these syllabi, they're put into our admission system. Those are automatically dropped into a cloud storage location. And each one of those is picked up and taken with a prompt to Claude, which is a language model by Anthropic that we have access to. And it says, do this analysis. Tell me what's going on here. So we knew we had to make sure that this was really accurate. There's always a risk with AI of hallucinations or inaccurate responses. So we put this up against human analysis of the same documents. And what we found is, a lot of times when the AI couldn't come to a conclusion or had an inaccurate conclusion, the human did the same thing because maybe the document was ambiguous. Another thing that was really interesting is we gave it some instruction. We said, hey, we're trying to figure out this mode of instruction. So what's a tip off that a class is taught in person? Right. So you might see things like a classroom number or a meeting time, things like that. And then we started seeing some incorrect answers, and we would look at it and go, oh no, there's something that looks exactly like that is not a class meeting time, and it's office hours. And so you could have situations where it's actually a virtual class, but the professor has office hours and it completely misses. And so I thought, oh man, what do we do? How can we get around this? And it turned out the answer was incredibly simple because of just the comprehension powers of these AI models. I just said in the prompt, hey, if it looks like office hours, don't take that as evidence of in person. Okay. And it improved the results, which is really, really interesting. So we're able to take those results. By the way, another thing you can do with AI whenever you're talking to it is tell it how you want the output to look. So a lot of times it'll just sort of spit you out a paragraph of prose. But in this case, we wanted something very specific, a certain structured text that we could move on to the next stage in the pipeline. So we give it an example of what that looks like. And that's another very powerful technique. You can tell it exactly, give me the text in this specific format. But you have to tell it, hey, don't start it by saying, sure, here you go, or any of that extra text is going to break our process. So you have to be very, very kind of specific with it. But you can get that kind of output, and then that is able to show up in applications that the registrar's office already uses. So they see the syllabus come over, they see the analysis, they've been very happy with how that's working. And it's very important to say, there's always a human in the loop there to take what the AI is telling them, to take another look, make sure it comports with what they're seeing. But it's a huge accelerator for the process.
I'm glad you said that, because some people feel that AI might take their jobs, or people trust it at its, at face value. And so I know from talking with Chuck Hurley that it does save a lot of time, but there is a human in there to make sure that it's accurate, right?
Absolutely.
And would you encourage others to do that with different AI to check it?
Absolutely. So two things that you mentioned. One is just the human element. It's not just having a human in the loop to validate responses. It's not forgetting that human interaction is really what we're all here for. And It's really important to me and to my team that we're not out looking to, replace anybody's job at all. The words I use all the time are enhance and accelerate. We want to make sure that we are lifting up the great skills of the people that we have here at Notre Dame. A good example of this is advising. So we're talking with students, we're talking with advisors about how can we bring something in the form of a bot that knows about curriculum, it knows about, something about advising. But that conversation, everything that we talk about is, where is that line? Where should the AI stop and refer you to your actual advisor? Where do we want to make sure that the conversation that needs to happen between you and a person across the desk is actually happening? And where are those places where the AI can actually just help you get to those crucial conversations faster? So we're always thinking about the human element. It's really, really important. You also asked about just validating output. This is incredibly important. So I'm sure people have heard this concept of hallucination. That is just intrinsic to how generative AI works. It is it's a statistical model. It is spitting out the most likely next word. I tell people sometimes this is like if you ever play that game when you're texting and it tells you it has predictive text, and you just kind of mash on the middle thing and just to see what it's going to spit out. So I'm sure the computer scientists out there listening are screaming, but it's essentially that. I mean, it's not that. And it's on a much bigger scale. And so what's amazing is that out of that kind of behavior, you get things that have all the appearance of reasoning and really sophisticated answers. But because it works that way, there's always the risk that it's going to give you inaccurate things. Now, we can mitigate that in some ways. Anytime that you bring data to it or give it examples, or it's pulling data on the back end, that brings it into this thing called a context window, which is a little more like working memory front and center. And it goes away after your chat. But for the duration of that chat, it's able to answer questions quite well. But don't ever believe anybody. If you hear a vendor or somebody say, we've eliminated hallucinations, not true.
Okay.
So the thing is, you always have to be somewhat on guard for that. But these models are getting better, especially as they pull in more data. And so you can use AI to do things like I do, like to help with coding, or even in some cases to learn about new topics. It has this, I feel like if you can Google something easily, you should, because it's probably better for the environment. But the nice thing about generative AI is you can ask questions in a really specific way that's hard to Google. But you always have to bring your own knowledge to it, your own ability to validate. I think AI works best when it's a co-pilot helping to accelerate something you already pretty much know how to do, because you're able to bring really specific instructions to it. You're able to tell it exactly what you want. And then when the response comes back, is this right? You always have to bring that additional kind of awareness and diligence to any interaction with AI, which is I think a bigger challenge than people necessarily understand, because it always answers so confidently that it's easy to kind of forget that step. But it is a hazard. And I think, sometimes it worries me, but then I realize I use AI effectively every day, and it does make me faster, and it makes things, much smoother and gives me great responses. But it comes with that responsibility to always be vigilant about what you're seeing and how you're using that output.
I was in a meeting the other day and we were talking about AI, and someone said, I've never used it. I don't know where to start. And I don't think people realize you probably use it all the time when you're texting. It's predictive, using Siri or whatever. But this person was talking about using it in a way for work, I believe. So where should we tell our listeners, how should they get started if they really want to just kind of jump into, the AI waters and see if they can sink or swim?
Absolutely. So if you are a Notre Dame faculty, staff, or soon student, you can go to gemini.google.com and you can try out conversational AI with Gemini right there. It does, all the things that you've heard about, and with other products. It uses their most capable new model, Gemini 2.0. It can generate text for you, it can do code, ask it questions. Make sure, by the way, that whenever you're working with AI, that you don't forget to go back and forth. You make it more of a conversation. If you ask it for something and it's not quite right, go back to it. Say, hey, can you adjust this? I do this all the time. Whether it's, working on a draft of a document, or whether you're coding, or whether you're doing anything, you can ask for adjustments. And it's that back and forth process that's really helpful. You can ask it to ask you clarifying questions in any task. And a lot of times, flip it on its head a little bit, and that can really elicit some good ideas. Make it more of this kind of co-intelligence, as Ethan Mollick at the Wharton School likes to say, a thought partner. And so you can do that with Gemini. You can get started. You can have it generate images for you. That's a lot of fun. If you're a faculty or staff member with Gemini, you can hit the @ sign, and it will actually give you the option to talk to your Gmail, to your documents, to your calendar. I found it extremely helpful to hunt down an email that I've lost, but I know some detail about it. It's hard to search, but Gemini can help you find it. Just give it a try. Getting hands-on with these tools, I think, is the best way to understand both. I think people will be amazed at what it can do, and maybe a little surprised at the things that it can't do, and I think both are really good experiences, because it helps people put a little bit of a box around this thing that feels very unknown and limitless, and maybe sometimes because of that scary, I think it just demystifies it a little bit and starts to show you, oh, this is actually something really approachable. That's very easy. That's the thing. Like, you don't need to be a technologist. You don't need to know coding. You don't need to know anything except how to speak and type and ask for what you want. And I think people will be really amazed at what comes out.
You checked all my boxes. And I have played with Gemini a little bit, and I actually find it kind of fun. And I was a little amazed and surprised at what it put out. Is there anything I didn't ask you, or do you have any parting words of wisdom for us as we get into this brave new world?
I would say just get out there and try it. Get hands-on with these tools, see what they can do. They can be a lot of fun. You don't have to use them for serious business. You can ask them to, make up games or, write poetry or, help you with, I don't know, what's for dinner tonight. Try some of the other options. If you go and pay for your own personal chat GPT, you would need to use public data, of course, but it has a voice mode. You can talk to it in the car. I've had a lot of fun with that. I've used it for helping improve my Spanish. It can talk to you in multiple languages at once and kind of go back and forth. And you can say, hey, let's follow that trail. Let's learn about this for a minute. It's really fascinating. Like, the range of use cases is incredibly wide, and we're just now starting to understand how wide it can be and where AI is best applied here at Notre Dame. And so I guess the other thing I'd say to folks is, if this sparks some idea, or if you would just like to have a conversation about AI, reach out to us. You can get to us at ai@nd.edu. We have that email address, and my team would love to come talk to your team about AI and the possibilities.
Awesome. Thank you for taking time to talk to us, Brandon, about AI on campus. I hope our listeners will take advantage of the workshops and the different programs and going to the website. We appreciate you taking time to talk to us in real life and real time about AI. Thank you so much. Thanks
for having me.
We'll be back next month with more news and stories by and for Notre Dame employees. I'm Natalie Davis Miller. Thanks for listening to NDWorks.